Hi, I'm Laurie with To The Trade from Interior Design Community, and I have Abiola Amusan with me. Hi, how are you?
Hey, Lori, pleasure to see you again.
Yes, so exciting. I
Cool.
met you, what was it, like a month ago, and became one of your biggest fans.
Well, you know what? I was a big fan of your stuff for a long while, so it's just gone full circle.
Yeah, so you do something very interesting. You run AV Luxury Design. You're a quality integrator for interior designers. And what a great resource that you are. I know so many designers out there who do not have a great resource for integration of home tech, entertainment, lighting, water filtration, automation, home automation. It scares the bejesus out of a lot of designers because they never, ever, ever want to be tech support. And you would be their best friend.
And they should never have to be tech support. That's
I
what the
want
key
to,
is.
believe me. That's the one thing I think that prevents them from thinking about this or tackling this as a topic. I think that of course they understand home automation and I think they particularly see it through the lighting scope,
Oh, sure, sure.
and to some degree entertainment is sound, to some degree security, but they it sometimes is an afterthought. I'm sure you feel the same way, right?
For sure. I've been in homes where a designer has just painted their masterpiece. It looks beautiful. And then the homeowners tells me, I'd love to add some speakers or I'd love to do something here. And I look at it, I said, "Oh, no."
I know, right? Now add on that like amazing millwork where you've got like molding and the I think of it all the time and I'm like, "Oh my goodness. How hard must it be to cut through something that is like brand new and beautifully done?" It's not it must pain you
No,
inside.
well, I try to guide them away from that. I really do. I think others may not, but, I appreciate a lot of the design and what interior designers do. It's painstaking. They make it look easy. That's the problem, but it's not easy.
No.
Tried
Oh.
once. I did a half bath in my house. It was super small. No, it was a powder room actually, and all the decisions I had to make in that small room, and I think about what designers have to do. I just think they're amazing.
It is. It is really amazing. There are so many moving parts in a home design. There are so
Sure.
many product lines, so many, you know, step by step process that if you don't do this before you do this, then you're throwing everything off, and including people's time. That's the other factor that is being organized is when this needs to come in so that this person can do their job, and it's so much organization and it's overlooked, I think. I was talking to a project management software company last week and we were talking about, custom furniture and it was really interesting for him to say that the normal everyday consumer, being that they would buy online, they'd go into a shop and buy it, they would think that there was like maybe 5 points of contact between them picking out something and it comes into their house. Like how many touch points does that happen? And and they were saying based on their data, typically it could be up to 90 touch points if
Oh,
it's a
wow.
custom piece of furniture. Like it could be 90 times that an email has to go back and forth, that a decision has to be made, 90 touch points to get your custom sofa into your living room from Kravit, and that to me is just not talked about enough. I love that you understand that piece and that there's
Sure.
so much that goes into it. It's not as easy as it looks because if done well, design looks so flawless
Oh,
and
sure.
it's
Effortless.
and exactly. So what led you to get into this business, AB luxury design?
So my background is in technology. So I've worked in the technology space for over 2 decades. And some years ago, I was at a neighbor's house and he had a home automation system. And that was the first time I've seen it. And it was similar to what I did in my day job, but it was just more fun, right? You get to build home theaters, you get to work with designers, you get to work with architects, and a lot of what I've done in my previous job, right? Collaborate with folks, work with architects on construction projects. But these are just, but now I'm doing it for things I'm passionate about, right? I'm doing it for the right reasons, helping families create a space for joy, right? So it was awesome, and I I started to learn about it, and I just ran with it. And a couple of years after, my wife and I started our company, and we've been fortunate to do a number of amazing projects.
I love it. And I love that you are very designer friendly. I mean, a lot of integrators maybe don't understand the design process, don't understand what's meaningful for a designer because, you know, having those kinds of things sometimes, I'm just talking like the home automation features, the speakers, the lighting. Sometimes it is an afterthought for the designers, and so it just doesn't it's for them, it's the less sexy stuff. I mean, it's not fabric, it's not, the space planning. It's sort of like it has to be done, it has to be addressed. The technology fails them, so it's also something that they worry about. It's a stressor for designers, I think, because they worry about if it fails and the client being upset at them because it's not,
Oh,
you know, if your oven doesn't, turn on when it's set, when you're away because you want to be able to turn it on and the client doesn't understand how it works, or it could be user error even, does that come back on the designer? Are they more unhappy with the overall design if they don't feel like everything works perfectly all the time? And that's sometimes what I think leads them to shy away from it, where they should be sort of jumping in and figuring it out because it's just part of our lives now. I mean, even on the economy level with, pod and, that kind of thing, we have, I'm sure in your own home, you have lights that turn on at certain times and
sure.
turn off. And, we all kind of integrate it. So I think it's something that should be embraced. I'd love to see the technology piece embraced more by designers and for designers to feel more comfortable with that. And that's why I think I gravitated to you when I first met you, because to me, you're a key to helping interior designers bridge that gap because you're an integrator who speaks their language.
No, you're absolutely right. And one thing that you said is, well, you know what? I wouldn't blame the designers for feeling what they feel because they are the primary contact for the client, right? So in their eyes, anything that does go wrong is going to be, everyone's going to look at the designer, right? This is your guy.
Right.
This is your
Right.
guy that you brought, your wallpaper guy, your AV guy, whatever it is, your furniture that got broken on the truck. That's all your fault.
Yes. Like, yes.
That's so
And they're like, I don't want to get into another thing that's all my fault. No, thank you.
if yes, and I don't blame them. And for sure, at times it can, if done the wrong way, yes, it can be what I do can be viewed as unsexy. But I think if the focus is on the end goal, so like, when I walk through a home, I ask like, how do you envision yourself living in this space, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the experience. I'm not talking about we're going to use 90 of this and technical jargon. I never talk technical jargon. So for example, right, in my hand is a fabric, but these are fabrics for sound bars that are customizable. So you can customize the trim with any color that you want, Benjamin Moore or Sherman Williams. And then the fabric that goes in the middle, you can pick it. It's interesting. I am showing them fabric when we're talking, right? So it's a difference because I gravitate towards the custom part of our title custom integrator. So we're not just integrating whatever we want, we're customizing it, and there's no cookie cutter. It's easy to be cookie cutter, like a lot of folks may want to do, but I think it's more exceptional when you can work with someone and just figure it out, like build something unique that is just for that home, right? You know,
Right.
both
And
homes.
it can disappear or it can be a feature depending on what the client
Exactly.
wants out of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. So, like you mentioned disappear. So, for example, invisible speakers, we did that recently. The interior designer brought us in on a job. We did this invisible speakers because this was a very formal dining room. They did awesome wallpaper all around, and there were older speakers on the wall. We got rid of those speakers, put it in the ceiling, muddied it over it. The painters came, painted it. You see nothing. So now when people walk in, it's all about the room, not about the speakers, not about anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes, I would think, the experience when you're having a dinner party and
Sure.
you've got the right food and you've got the right music on, it doesn't intrude on anyone
No.
to see it, to see the speaker blare, to see where it just kind of feels like you're immersed in the experience of the room from a design perspective. And I imagine that there are so many ways that a designer can integrate technology that will actually improve the quality of their clients' lives.
Oh, for
And
sure.
that is sort of the end game with adding technology. You and I had a really, really great long conversation with Doug Weinstein from Technology Designer Magazine the other day, and we were talking about lots of future stuff. And I don't know if you remember, but in that conversation, we were talking a little bit about passive home design.
Oh, sure.
And he was based in Colorado, so he was talking a lot about air filtration and water filtration and having hospital grade air and fires that could happen, and that you would have some protection if fire was near you to not be breathing in some of the toxins from that environment. And then the fire in LA happened. Not even a couple weeks later, right? From that conversation.
Yes.
And I don't know if you saw, but one
Passes
of
home.
the viral photos, did you see it, of a
Of
passive
course.
home that survived
Yes.
that fire? And I was just thinking Doug must be jumping like, "Look,
I told you
this is what
so.
I've been talking about. I told you so." You know? But that's some of the realistic things that can be impacted in someone's lives when they're thinking in terms of the total plan
Sure.
environment that they're in, the technology that they're in, that they're putting into the home. And when are you a part of that conversation for designers? When do they typically bring you in, and when would you rather they bring you in?
That's a great question. It spans the gamut when they typically bring us in, but they will usually bring us in because maybe the husband asked for something specific. And then at times it could be a mad rush, right? Because walls are about to close up and the certain trades are about to leave the job. So we find that because again, sometimes this work we do is an afterthought. Um, and it is an afterthought for a number of reasons, and I think, not having the right partner, not having the right custom integrator partner, and just the general lack of awareness, right? Designers have so much to do, right? So they should not be tasked with figuring out this AV stuff as well, right?
No, right.
I
Well,
think
they don't want to be, for sure. I know that, but it would be really, I think, an interesting idea for designers to kind of think about how they could approach that a little sooner, so that the work that you do could be elevated
oh,
and could be
sure.
part of the process, because I think there's so much more that you could bring to the table than running speakers and running the AV and running you know, and worrying about the lighting, and when things will turn on or when they'll turn off, those kinds of basic home automations. I think that it could be a little bit more intensive and really holistically making the client a little bit more happy in the home because everything is working the way it should work.
That that is a
I
good
mean, if
point.
in an ideal world, would you like to be invited into the project in the design phase more than more than the installation phase?
That is, absolutely right, because there's no harm in being invited into a project too early, right?
Right.
That just allows us to understand the designer's vision, the architect's vision, and figure out how we come up with solutions that will add value to what they're trying to do. But yes, I think earlier is always the best so that we're able to we're able to be woven in because
Yeah.
some yes, exactly. We just weave in. You don't even notice half of these things are there until you do it.
Right.
So
And you
automation.
probably are bringing ideas to the table that they wouldn't even think about implementing into the design,
Oh, sure.
by having a meeting with you in the design phase, how, and working through some of these problems. These are certainly things that they might add that actually don't add a tremendous amount of dollar to the client either.
No, absolutely.
So it's just a little thought process shift more than a finance shift, and it usually makes the client a lot happier to have some of these things addressed. I mean, sometimes it's security issue, sometimes
Yeah.
it's temperature control. I know a designer. I talked to a builder today who we were having this conversation, and they said, just in some of the implementation of different insulation that they worked on and different, products that they integrated, that they saved the client $150 on their electric bill,
Sure.
typically,
Oh, for
on
sure.
your windows, on the, and it's just these little things that, believe me, the clients do notice if you're having the forethought to make their lives a little bit easier. And I think that's what technology, having a technology integrator does. We have, for instance, like certain things, like if my husband comes home and he enters a geolocation ring, that the garage door opens automatically, that lights turn on at different times of the day and get softer at different times of day based
Yeah.
on the the light in New England, which sometimes in the winter is a lot sooner than in the summer. So all of these things can be automated based on sunsets and, and make your clients feel, and we do a lot of music in our house. I'm a very big proponent on, I like to make food and have music that matches the food every night. Like, it's just something I do as my normal day to day. Like, I call it like romancing my life. I love it. I have playlists for different kinds of moods and different kinds of regions. So if I'm having Italian food, I might have, like, I have an Italian bistro playlist. I have an Italian opera playlist. It depends on the food and what I feel in that moment of, like, what I'm doing with the dish. If I'm going more gourmet or if I'm going more casual, I put on different kinds of music that make me feel part of that mood. And I
Okay.
do the light the same way. I like to set a mood at home, and I can tell you it does make it feel better. It feels good to, and we're HomePod. We're not in the, high-end range, but we can put on our different playlists, and it I start it out when I'm cooking, and then I carry that playlist on through dinner, and it heightens the experience for me, and I'm sure that that could happen to your clients too.
Well, I have a riveting question for you. What is for dinner tonight?
I think we're doing something with I made these, like, I'm doing something with chicken. I usually stuff chicken with, like, a cheese.
Mm,
Like, I'm doing it low calorie, so I'm probably gonna do Laughing Cow cheese stuffed chicken
like a
with
cordon
a side
bleu?
of asparagus. I'm a protein veggie girl. I try to stay away from the carbs as much as possible.
I hear you. It sounds amazing, but like you were saying, we're getting early. There's so much we can do. There's so much we can think about as well, and then we can. I think the best part of what we do when it's done right the client's super happy, and then as folks are coming over, they're gonna ask who did this, right? So it's gonna really be the designer because the way we partner with designers are we come in as their resource, right? So however
Sure.
they want to structure it. So we're their guy, we're there for them, we're there to support them. Essentially, we like to call ourselves the easy button for the designer. So
Right.
they could
And you
they
work with designers all over the country too, correct?
yes, and we're looking to expand that more because we found so much success working with them.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think that bringing you on in the beginning, having those conversations would be really beneficial to the designer and can increase the price of the project too because you're selling to sometimes the males in the of the client wants, the TV features, the audio features, but you still don't have to do it in a way that is not is compromising on the design side. Have
And
you encountered any significant challenges with working with designers? Is there something that you wish designers would do better?
it's a great question. Something I wish designers would do better. I can't look, everyone has their challenges, but I really do I think when I work with designers, I kinda see where they're coming from, so I empathize. Uh, I think the biggest thing is letting us know earlier, right? But
Okay.
there's nothing malicious that I can think of from
Yeah.
designers. It's just, look, it's and I think it's on me or us in the industry or custom integrators to create that awareness, right? So how would the designer know when to bring us in? We have to share that information. I think no, generally, my philosophy has been to really make sure we're the easy button and approach this from a white glove situation. My background, right? So when I first started in the tech industry, I worked in help desk, so it's really customer support. And I think all that stuff kind of still exists within me in my head, like all that customer support stuff. So now it's just natural.
Yeah.
So and I approach I think once there are designers that have been burned by folks who work in my industry, like AV folks. But I think once they see and once they understand that we are on the same side of the table, and that's how I approach everything. We're both, the designer and our team, we're both sitting on the same side of the table. We're not opposite, we're not at odds. We're really gonna go above and beyond and you know, bend them over as much as we can to ensure they're supported. And one thing I find is when it's done well and it's just effortless. Secondly, it does open up other spaces in the home. So, for example, we were working with another client that had really old lights. Like it was like a retrofit situation. So old lights, like 6-inch flange lights that are yellowing, but the room was beautiful. So we came in and we did a 4-inch, we reduced the 6-inch to a 4-inch, and then we made it trimless. So when you look at it now, it almost kind of disappears in the ceiling. And then the homeowner asked me, he's like, "Oh, it was the wife asked me, I'd love to do this in other parts of the home." Right? So the work we do, whether it's invisible speakers, just to name a few, right? Because we do get super granular, but this is not a tech podcast, it's a design podcast. It opens up other areas of the home. It does because it's gonna be I wish I had this here as well. Once they
Sure.
see it, it kinda like I think propagates the right word, propagates around the house.
Sure. You might have blinds that automate in your living room, and then you decide, "Oh my gosh, that'd be so great in our bedroom too," so that you can, you know, you're having that nice deep sleep at night, and you're
Oh,
not
for sure.
having even the moonlight in your room, that kind of thing. Are there any common misconceptions about how to home automation that you think that you'd like to clarify for designers?
Yes, there is, Google. It's similar to Google
Google.
or Alexa. It's not. It's not similar to Google Alexa for a number of reasons. Google and Alexa are more of a DIY product. And
Right.
Amazon or Google say, "All right, we're not gonna support this device anymore," then you have to get rid of all that stuff. The difference in what we do is it's kind of a one-time thing. It's done in there, and your time horizon to make changes, we're talking number of years because it's meant to last. There might be times where, folks might wanna do minor upgrades, and that will happen, but this is meant to last, it's not gonna change, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, how often does, like, a piece of whatever you have change, or they made a change that you couldn't control, and then you hate it, right?
Right. Like an iOS, like TikTok going away.
Uh, is that gonna happen?
It's supposed to on the 19th. I'm so upset about it.
Well, that's gonna be interesting for a lot of folks,
It is. It
right?
is. I learn so much on TikTok. It's not even funny. I don't know what I'm gonna do without TikTok.
But you are absolutely right. Like TikTok going away. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
And you have no control over it. At least
No.
your home automation system, you are in control. It is your system, right? So that's the benefit of it. But I think people almost misconstrue it. I can do the same with Google, Alexa. Another big thing is lighting. We'll get lights from, again, certain lighting things are appropriate for certain situations. So a garage, the lights from Home Depot, that makes sense, right? So more of a utility area. But there will be situations where the living area of a high-end home has these lights that are really glary, and it's not conducive to, your well-being, right? Because there's a lot of blue in those LEDs. You can't see it, but it's flashing at a absurd amount of, absurd amount of times per minute. It's just not the right kind of light for you. So,
You might develop migraines over that, or you might
over
have headaches. You don't even know that that's related to the light that you have in your home,
Yeah,
correct?
yes, you're absolutely correct, and you find that you can't wind down. It's the it
Right.
it's the exact same thing. Imagine looking at your phone, staring at your phone all night. You might as well do that, right? It's the same
Right.
idea, and the proper kind of lighting plays a big part, I would think. So those
Yeah.
are I think if those were two of the biggest misconceptions, it's like the lighting and thinking that the home automation is similar to Amazon Alexa or Google, or
Right.
it's totally
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
animals.
What do you think are emerging trends in the home automation and luxury design? What's coming next?
AI.
AI. Yeah,
AI.
I think we're
No, AI is definitely a big part of it. So, and when I say AI, I'm not, again, not a home assistant like Amazon or Alexa. It's more of something that is context aware. So let's say if it's, I don't know, you can even talk to some of them. Like if it's 50, you can say, "Hey, if it's 50 degrees outside tomorrow at this time, I want you to turn on the heat to this," right? So it really natural there's a lot of natural language stuff that you can do with it. Wellness, kind of like saunas, like spa grade bathrooms, right? That's a thing.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Saunas, wine rooms always been a thing, but that's a thing. Theaters, because
Yeah.
people wanna stay home, people wanna entertain, so home theaters, outdoor spaces, so, for example, really high quality outdoor audio when you're entertaining people and, like a private garden.
I
Oh,
have
home
seen
humidifiers.
also, speakeasies. Like, that's another thing
Yeah.
I've saw I would say in the last couple years, we've been seeing speakeasies integrated into basements. That's
Yes.
been, like,
Yeah.
weird on the rise. I don't know why, but people want a speakeasy and they're out in their basement all of a sudden.
No, it's cool because it's cool.
Right?
It's just
Getting into, like, your cool little bar room, something
what's
that
it, the
you
20s or
don't think
something?
the kids around or whatever.
No,
Prohibition
that's
is all in effect.
so wellness is also a big thing. So, like we were talking, you mentioned it. What do you call it? Eh, Clean air, right? So,
Yeah.
like fresh air in the home, materials that don't have high VOC, volatile organic compounds,
Yeah,
home
sure.
fitness centers, water purification systems. You said it earlier. keep going, but it's really about health and wellness.
Health and
There's
wellness as opposed to sustainability. I think that that's like the buzzword of sustainability has kind of I don't know why, but I think for a lot of designers, a lot of homeowners, sustainability, even though it's a good thing,
concepts.
sounds expensive. It sounds like an add-on versus like we're going to thoughtfully integrate wellness or health benefits into the design. It's not going to cost more, but it's just going to be something that we're thinking about because we want you to be happy and healthy in your home. That, as part of the design package. And I think a lot of designers are thinking that way
Sure,
too. If you had interesting, like if you had a piece of advice for someone who's coming on, maybe we have an integrator listening who's just
sure.
starting their career. What advice would you give them about working in this industry?
I think the key I found is to become a you know what? Be a Lori. Be
Perfect.
be re become a resource to folks, and the rest falls in place, right?
Right.
Truly, become a resource to folks, and I'm happy here's the thing, I'm happy to talk to, like, any designer that just has any questions, like, doesn't have to nothing has to come of it, I'm just happy the stuff's already in my head, right? I don't have to yeah. It doesn't take that much effort to recall something I already know. So, my key, at least for 2025 and beyond, is to double down and be a resource for designers, right? So, if someone was coming into this field, I tell them to focus on lighting, focus on the health benefits of lighting, especially circadian rhythm lighting. Again, the lighting that changes to match the outside, brings it inside so that it it kinda it it really worry about the well-being of the end user, right? Who
Yeah.
the final person who's gonna live in there, think about them. Think about them as if they were your family, right? So
Right.
make those same decisions you would as if it were your people. So I think when you act that way, right? So if you have the right guiding principle, the rest will align. So, for example, if an interior designer calls me and just wants information, I'll tell them whatever they need to know. Right? Maybe nothing ever comes of it, but doesn't matter to me. It's just like build goodwill.
Yeah. Yeah.
That-
Absolutely. I love that. I love that you're so willing to help the designers that might struggle with this and might have those questions. Do you have a moment, like a proud moment on a project that you've worked on that you thought was such good work that you
yes.
want to share?
Yes. You know what it is? It's not one of the bigger projects. It was a smaller project. And we were a local designer who does amazing work reached out to us. She was do she this is the place where we did the invisible speakers. So she was doing a couple of rooms in the house, but just like full redo wallpaper, revamping. And she called us and said, excuse me, I met her a while ago and she called me out of the blue and she told me that I'm working on this project. I'd love for you to do some lighting and audio here. Again, small project, but there were time constraints. So we had to kind of work around other trades like the painters and the electrician, and we did. So we were there maybe Saturdays early in the morning, late at night. A couple of other days during the week, we were just jumping in and out because we had to get this done before the holidays.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, it was just happened, and we did, and the homeowner was super happy. The interior designer was happy as well, right? Because I think for interior designers, right, it's one thing to control the outcome, but it's another thing to have to rely on someone else on an outcome that like, you know, her hand, her fate's in my hands, right? And
Right. Yeah.
and
Your reputation reflects on her. Your work
and,
will reflects on her reputation for
and
sure.
exactly. Thank you for saying it better than I did.
Well, it just happens. I mean, I know that designers feel that way about every single trade
That's
they
not
are put
cool.
their neck out for, they
Could you imagine?
recommend because like you said, those the designer is so interwoven with the client
Forget about it.
that they're like, by the end of the project, it's a love-hate relationship for sure, because sometimes they're just done with that client. They can't wait to see the back of them because they've seen everything. And then sometimes they're the best friends, but it's always, very, very intimate. They've seen the underwear on the floor. They've seen the couple argue. They've seen the good, bad, and the ugly from this family over the course of the years that it takes to do good design.
Oh,
It's just
sure.
sometimes, it's very frustrating. I think that's probably one of the key components that in design is that so many of those parts are beyond their control,
Yes.
but yet they get blamed.
Could you imagine? Like,
I know. It's just so I feel for every designer listening, because they know that that's what happens, and they just it
well,
it gets very it's truly really tricky for them.
well, and that's why, I say this, and I say this when I work with builders also, but especially with designers, like, we wanna be the easy button. So, they're not gonna get any friction from us. We're not gonna be a pain in the butt. Really, our thing is, and you're never gonna hear, "No, that won't work." It's that doesn't work
I
because
hate
of
those
this.
words.
Yeah, like, no, never, no,
That's not the way we do it. That's not the way
oh
we do
my
it.
god. That's not the way we've always done it, and so it's really our approach is, I don't think that's gonna work because X, but we can do A, B, C, and D, right? So it's
Well,
really, and when we find issues in the field just because of, let's say, there's a beam or whatever it may be, it's gonna be like, "Hey, listen, this happened, but here are a couple of options I suggest," right? So it's never gonna be, um something happens, we stop, and then we stare at the designer. What do we do now? We're never gonna do that.
I love hearing that. This is music to my ears,
Could you
because that
imagine?
is absolutely
It's
something that they deal with on a daily basis.
awaiting instructions, and they just stare at they don't know.
Or they're like, I know how to do it better," and they just do something that
No,
completely destroys
absolutely not.
the design, which is another part of it. What advice would you give someone who's aspiring to enter into home automation in the luxury design field? What do you think they need to think about when they're working with designers?
Really, truly, believe it or not, it's not the technology piece, right? Because whatever, it's there, everybody gets it. Dime a dozen, the technology piece, really. It really because people wanna work with people they like, know, and trust. It's a human aspect. So it's really just be a helpful person, be a genuine person, and be empathetic, right?
A trustworthy collaborator, I
That's it.
think, is the be a trustworthy collaborator, because that's what they need.
That's
Do you
all you
think
have to
that
do.
there are potential clients that are interested in the only one aspect of it of home automation, or
Sure.
are they always interested in all of it?
No, no, no. So the great thing about the home automation piece is from a hierarchy level, there is the central control, like the brain, right? So that's the thing that
Yep.
creates everything. And then every other piece is an add-on. So they might want audio outdoor. They might want audio in the
Right.
house. They might want a home theater. They might want automated shades. They might want cameras. They might want doorbells. They might want lighting control. They might want all of it, or they may just want one. So it is
Right.
modular. The most important thing out of all of this is, especially if it's a home that's being built or fully renovated, like gut renovated, and obviously there are retrofit options as well if that's not the case. Free wiring. Look, we
Right.
run wires like our lives depend on it. Even if we're not gonna use it, we're gonna run the wire for it because in the future, something will come up and the homeowner will be glad that they had that wire there. So that's
Right.
that's the biggest piece. Everything else is just like, think about Legos, right? You could add any piece after the fact. That's
Right.
and you know what? You just kinda expose another fact. It doesn't all have to happen at the same time.
Oh, that's a really interesting
Mhm.
part of this,
Doesn't all
because
have to
it's
happen.
such a huge investment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have to buy the central computer, like what's running it. They have to pay for the wiring and, setting, but they don't have to necessarily invest in every aspect
No.
of every component that they can kind of go as they need to grow and probably take away from those pieces too as they, their family changes. I mean, people maybe you don't want speakers in the baby's room, but when your kid is, you know, 10, 13, maybe they want to have speakers in the room. And if it's already wired, why
Exactly.
not? Why not allow that to happen? So all about get some soundproofing in there. Let me tell you, you have a
Ah,
13-year-old having access to sound. I want some soundproofing in there too.
they don't know how to for them the volume only starts from like 7 to 10. It's
Yeah.
nothing below that.
No, no. Do you see any big changes coming down the pipeline in home automation? Is there something happening with AI beyond AI, or is that going to be the next thing? Because I do think AI is going to change the game in a big way, where it will have intuitive learning about you and
Yes.
your own habits. So I think that's going to be kind of one of the frontiers I see happening. Is the system's learning from your behaviors
Yeah.
and then adapting based on that. Do you think that that's what's going to go
Without a doubt. Another thing that's gonna happen is
without you setting anything? So you're
yes.
not setting it, but you running it the way you typically run it. If I'm turning the lights on in this room every day at around 2 o'clock, it eventually it's just going to just do it automatically. It's going to know that that's what I want, right?
It can, and that's the kind of thing that could you schedule it? Yes. And it's actually easy to create these things. They're called scenes. So let's say the state of a room, the way the room is now, you like it. Like this music's playing, the lights are at this temperature. I mean, the lights at this temperature, the HVAC's at this temperature. You can tell it record that, and then now it can play it back for you anytime you want. So there's that,
Yep.
but also intuitively, and there's also sensor driven things. So occupancy, and the sensors are little tiny little guys. So that let's say if you walk into this room, you want certain things to happen. So now it's like location aware now. And some of these AI systems already exist where depending on where you talk. So for example, if it was, I don't know if you have one of those home assistants, I'm not going to say its name, or I'm not going to say its name for anyone else listening because we don't want to start it up. But if you say, "Hey, you know who, do this," but you have to like tell it what to do, what room, and in what room. These systems
Right.
will know what room you're in because it has, I forgot the type of microphone it has, but it can detect distance and kind of triangulate you. So if you're in the kitchen, you can say, tell your system, "Hey, turn up open up the shades a little bit." That's all you say. So it's like more of a
Yeah.
natural conversation, and I'll say it's open. It's like a little bit more and do this. So it's like you're talking to a person.
I
And
love that.
yeah, you don't have to say, "Hey, so and so, do this in the living room, please, and put it to this." And then keep like, you don't have to become a parent.
I love that. What do you think would be an absolute dream project for you right now? If there's a designer listening that has a project what would be your dream project?
A house that's floating on water. I'm kidding. Ah,
You never know. There's some out there.
yes.
That'd be
that
hard to wire.
oh, could you imagine all that water?
Yeah.
No, no. You know what? What would be cool is someone who is building a house from scratch, right? And someone who values the design and technology being married together, and who understands that someone who sees how this can make the homeowner's life easier. Really like create some wow moments and some long lasting memories in the house. So something where we can start from scratch, wire the whole home, and really work like and put it into with a designer that really wants to work hand in hand with us, right? Because yeah, we can always go and like run with it, but I really want to sit down and really like I want to be challenged, right? So I want to the interior designer's like, why are you doing this? Wait, we're doing this because of this, and this is how we're gonna like work together with you. So it really isn't about the actual project. It's about the person who is going to be collaborative and wants to really push the envelope of technology and design. And it would be nice if it would be like some awesome, huge build where we can talk about outside, like an outside garden or something like that. A
Oh, I
nice
love
pool.
that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
really, an outside garden.
Yeah, make it a whole lifestyle
Oh, an
thing,
oasis.
not that sounds amazing. That
And
really does.
Oasis, and obviously, y- home theaters, all the cool stuff. So like, hopefully the I guess the folks in the house are like children in the sense where they want to watch movies. They want to watch
Yeah,
movies. They want to just enjoy themselves. They have young kids who want to play games, like somewhere where they can really be uh, a Disney World in their own home. Right.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. What's something about you that would surprise people?
Right.
You have to be about your job.
No, it was. Well, I used to make kombucha.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. Uh,
Wow.
I used to make kombucha, which was pretty cool. And you know what's funny? You just at some point when you get going, there's just so much kombucha.
It's further.
You don't know what to do. Doing it, and
People
I
are like bottling, giving it away.
oh man, and you know what? Maybe that's what I'm gonna start that again in 2025, and start bottling and giving it away.
Well,
But
we did 3D printing for a little week. Like my husband got into like 3D printing, and then
okay,
we worked that into our Christmas ornament that we do for the
oh,
interior designers. Which I don't know if you saw. We do a swear word Christmas ornament that anyone can sign up for, and we just send it out. It's funny. It just says like "fuck off," "fuck that," "fuck this."
I love
Obscene. But it's funny because it always makes me think like designers have a hard time saying no sometimes. And I just think of it gives me this like a little thrill that there's a designer all dressed up in designer clothes and she's opening little ornament. This is fuck off. I just think it's so fun. It's just,
or they just carry it with in their pocket, and when they hear something they don't like from Homer, they just like you like kind of like reach
they
for
just
it.
know in the back of their head they've got this little ornament in their back. I love it.
Are you still doing that, by the way? The little ornaments?
Yeah.
That's
I do, I
awesome.
love it. I think it's a real joy to me, and then they get them, and then I get photos of them and on my tree, and I get that I just I enjoy it. It's something I do it for me more than I do it for anything else because it's just so fun to watch it. If you could collaborate with any designer out there, past or present, who would it be?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's not fair. Because
I know.
I'm
It's a
gonna
hard
leave
one.
no, because
Have clients and you're like, "Oh, no, I can't not mention
I
my
feel
client."
like I'm gonna
It
make it
can't
end.
be I'm gonna throw a caveat in there, it can't be any of your clients you've already worked with.
Right. All right.
So then
That's
they can't blame you.
yeah, because I felt like I was gonna make energies.
Sure, sure. I don't blame you. I would be like, "Oh,
uh,
no, no." They
uh,
can't you can't pick a client for sure. No way.
there are so many good
Would it
people.
be like a Nate Berkus or would it be like an AD designer, Architectural Digest type designer like Kelly Wersler? Or would it be more of a HGTV person?
HCTV. No, I think it would be. I wish you submitted the questions earlier. I would have ruminated on it for a
You
week
would
or
have
two.
gone into a rabbit hole on this one because there's
I,
so many
you know what?
amazing.
I'm going to say an AD designer only because, and again, that's not saying I don't like the HGTV stuff. I mean, I grew up watching HGTV, but
Who didn't? Yeah.
that's what makes me think that it takes less than 24 hours to do a whole house, right? It's supposed to.
Sure, sure. It's
Power
super
Magic TV.
easy. It's
No,
super and you just put
AD.
hay on the walls all the
That's it.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, two people come in and just do the wall, do the house, and then they do a reveal. Everyone's happy. 30
It's
minutes and you're done.
$1,000. It's 48 hours with $1,000.
That's so delusional.
Right, yeah.
No, yeah, it would be an AD designer because it's just that level of elegance.
Yeah.
I love the
I
elegance.
I love it too. Will say there are some HGTV stars out there that do that level of work too. I've
Sure.
known some of them that do that level of work, but it is really exciting to see the AD type designers bringing in they're just so thoughtful and they get called on such like historic projects too, which
Uh-huh.
they're doing something very innovative, and I think that's where you'd shine so well. Like those really cutting edge and innovative projects.
The
I'd love to
challenging
see you
ones.
involved in that. Yeah, because what very thought provoking,
Oh,
where there's a
sure.
lot of thought being implemented.
Oh, for
Is
sure.
there a book, a podcast, a resource that you think has significantly approached your world in design?
Even though in my world in design, no, because a lot of the stuff I get is from watching what you're doing, a lot of what folks are doing on Instagram, right? So I
Yeah,
am
I
ve
love Instagram.
oh
It's such a
my,
great resource for
come on.
design. There are so many designers on Instagram, so many great
Oh,
designers, and
gosh.
really great conversations that are happening in the world of design on Instagram.
Well
So I agree with you.
your daily questions are always thought-provoking. I love reading
I think that's true. They're really, and they're, believe me, they're not mine. They
that's
come from the
true.
designer. You, all of you guys are sending in your questions of the day on DM me your questions because they're very exciting. And I know that so many more people read them than even comment. I know tons of designers are like, I don't feel like I can comment because I don't want my client to see
They're wa
they're watching me, but I read it every morning. So, I know that a lot of designers are it's part of how they incorporate procedures in their business. It's sometimes it's just that morality boost too to know that you're not
you're not alone.
like suffering this alone. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
2 things, the running a lot of interior designers, some of them are solopreneurs, right? They're running this operation themselves,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
having a community where they can talk about, look, running your own business or running anything is a lonely thing, right? So
Yeah.
having a community where you can go and talk about it and realize that, hey, everyone, yeah, I'm not alone, right? It's a
Everyone has a nightmare client sometimes. Everybody has a client that they don't quite know how to handle that situation.
sure,
I mean, it is really that's what the one thread that we hear over and over again
sure.
is that community helps people not feel alone, which is I mean, it's a double-edged sword because it's such a responsibility to
Oh,
to know that you're doing that for people, but it's also like incredibly heartwarming to know that we're making that kind of impact on anybody's life. So it's
and
exciting.
one thing you probably don't realize is, like, I I stumbled upon your question, though your thing where you pose those questions a long time ago. Like, it was like a year and change, I don't remember. But the interesting thing about that is it's not just only relevant for designers.
No,
Right? It's not, and I read one, it was like, I forgot what it was, and I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense," and I saw interior design community, I'm like, "Oh, that's cool," but it's really anybody who is running a business, dealing with customers, doing customer service, it it just resonates, right? Because you're getting this problem across, whatever they're talking about, it's happening across the board.
sure.
Contracts, how to
Yeah.
fire nightmare clients,
Client.
ah,
Yeah. How do you deal with your standard operating procedures? How do
all that
you
stuff.
onboard someone, offboard someone, all those everyday questions that are part of like business because none of us went to business school. We're all in this coming from it from different angles with different expertise, but we weren't trained on customer service or I mean you were, but I mean like not every one of the designers was trained on customer service or sales or taxes or business process
Oh gosh,
or
yeah.
accounting or any so it's just like you're wearing so many hats and trying to figure it all out by yourself is kind of exhausting. So knowing that there
You're
are
right, no.
resources and people are willing to share and information. And I think sometimes the other amazing thing too is the collaborative partners. We do have like photographers and stylists and reps and brands and integrators, contractors, architects in the mix too. I mean, they're not our main focus,
No, sure.
but they are part of the community and are as welcome as the designers because we know it takes so many people to make a good project. And we ultimately, that's the goal is to make the project good. So we welcome everyone and we want those conversations to happen so that designers and all of their partners that they work with to create this space learn from one another and have empathy for one another
Oh, sure.
can understand each other and how they work. I've actually had, believe it or not, I've had clients contact me through interior design Instagram
Oh,
saying, I've learned how to be a good client by watching what you're doing. I'm going to hire a designer soon. This is but I've been paying attention because I want to be a good client.
oh wow.
You
That's
know,
that's
it's so
self-awareness.
great.
That's
That's
amazing.
so self-aware because sometimes we are joking, about them. But for them to kind of get it and be like, I don't want to be a bad client. I want to be one of the good clients that they want to work with. And I understand why they'd be frustrated with these different situations. That's really great. I hope that happens for some people. I hope that they are learning that this is what a designer needs to work and how they how they can be respected more because it's hard. It's a hard job. It's not an easy job.
Tough.
It's sort of that middleman part position. And it sometimes really sucks to be in that situation because there's a lot out of your control.
That's the I think one I don't know if it was that exact moment, but I think back now to when I realized that it just made sense to really partner with interior designers because a lot of people in my field I don't think they subscribe to it, but I think they're going to start to understand the importance of it, right? As this, design driven is where everything's going. But I saw a meme, speaking of memes, and it said when the interior designer shows up to the job. Have you ever seen that one? And then
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
chicks like shit, 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 shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, why? Right? It's like,
So I have a funny backstory. That big popular when the really big popular one of that one came out, it was like very copied, but a designer actually made that post, right?
oh well,
And
because she
I
feels it.
know some of the people that were on that project,
Okay.
and they were offended by
Oh,
that meme because
okay.
they were like, "That's not how we react. We don't say that," and it like really drove down morale on the set of that project because and that's something I encourage designers who are listening to pay attention to. Like, if you are gonna make a meme, if you are gonna do that, get consent from the trades or the other people that you're gonna include in the meme because,
Oh,
that wasn't super well like, at least one of them that I know of wasn't very well received by the trades because they were filmed without their consent. They were made to feel like they were subordinates to
oh,
the designer, and the designer, the one that I'm talking about was like a design assistant, and she didn't really know. She was just trying to make content for her boss. Like, it wasn't like she was doing it intentionally, I'm sure.
mhm.
But I know the other people on the project.
And
So word got around that like they were really
they're
feeling
mad.
badly about that.
Oh,
So I'm
oh
just
no,
kind of it's interesting that you brought that one up, but I also want to put it out
I
there to
didn't
the
get it.
designers
That's why.
listening. Make sure you're at least talking to someone like so that they're in on the joke rather than like the butt of the joke. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's okay. I love memes. Just,
Oh,
everybody knows I love
come on,
memes.
come
I
on.
love memes.
You're the meme queen.
But make sure exactly, but make sure you're aware of your audience and you have empathy for your audience. I try to do that myself. Sometimes I'm finding like I'll do something snarky at the client expense. And I was like, I don't want to be negative to the designer or make them feel bad about something that they already might feel bad about. So I'm even careful with the memes that I do, even though I feel like everybody needs to take everything with a little bit of grain of salt. We're all just trying to laugh through a difficult situation. And that's what memes are supposed to do for you. But be thoughtful. Be thoughtful about those things because the person you're taking a video of is a real person. They're a real person too.
So
So
I think
those your contractors, your painters, your tile guys, your whatever, you think of those collaborators too and let them be in on the joke. They like jokes too.
so. The rule for 2025 is kinder, gentler memes. Would you say that?
Yeah, let's do that and include people in. Be more inclusive. Be more inclusive. All
That's
right. Well,
awesome.
thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. Make sure you go to avluxurydesign.com and we're going to send all the links over to everyone so that everybody can follow you, find you, and hopefully integrate you into their businesses.
Oh, pun intended. I like that.
Yeah. Well, goodbye. Thank you very much for coming.